All right, here we are, back in the saddle. Chris Call, as usual, here with Mikey Trudel.
Hey.
Yeah, we have a full house today.
Yeah.
We have Remy back.
Hola.
Yeah,
as
Remy,
Remy
on the board.
our tech director. Yeah.
Our tech director.
Our tech director today.
Exactly.
So hey Remy, thanks for joining us for another episode.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And also in the room, we have Theresa Corvino.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yes, so Theresa is a prop master, and she's also an integral part of the Property Masters Guild. What's your official title again? Because I always mess it up.
I guess we'll pretend the primary was
I know, because you
marketing
wear so
director.
many hats is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like you're the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, so I guess marketing director.
Marketing
We'll-
director, amongst
pretend that's
many other things.
all-encompassing.
Yes, it is. And Lauren Schell
Yes.
also.
Yes, I'm here. I am the vice president of
That's
the
right.
Property Masters Guild.
Yeah, and today we're responding to many requests for an episode about breaking into the film industry in the prop department.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. I think that was I think we've gotten like 4 different requests to do this episode, so this is gonna be a more topical one. But yeah, it not even just I think we've gotten this question most just here, but we've gotten this question at the Comic-Con. Like we want to make cards pretty soon that does this when we go out to events that explains a little bit more. But it is also hard to explain just on a card. So doing an episode I think is gonna be
Right.
good because the answer is gonna differ depending on who
Yeah.
you ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paula Schreiber, new chairman of the education committee, she's putting together a letter to send out to people that I have here as well that has a lot of resources on it, which is great. Because again, I'm getting requests as well. A friend of my son, just sent me an email requesting how do I get in the business, and so, I mean, obviously, it's a huge topic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an elusive topic. I mean, there's like, I'm kind of interested in myself, because I'm the old guy in the room, and it's been many, many years since I got in the industry, and I got in the industry in a secondary market as well. So like, I didn't break in Los Angeles. So I'm very curious to hear everybody's stories about how they got in and what it's looking like today.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's great. I think that's the reason that we brought Theresa and Lauren, you guys in especially, because we're a lot of the young people in town, and
Right.
the way to get in has changed, I guess, over the
Yeah.
years, like crazy.
100%.
You guys said there used to be almost a test you could take at 44.
Right. But even then, I mean, it was the studio system was very different. I mean, you can actually get in as like an apprentice back then and work with the union to get into the union. So I know we have a lot of people who aren't in Los Angeles, so hopefully I could speak a little bit to that, like what it's like to have to try to get in if you're in a different market, which again is also changed over the years as well, because there's other markets besides LA are huge now, like Atlanta and New Mexico and Chicago or whatever. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and we do have another episode planned at some point in the near future, hopefully, about getting into it in out-of-town jobs with an actual out-of-town prop master too. That can probably speak more to that. So, but we'll try to do the best, I think, on this one here today.
yes,
So, let's
jump in.
Let's start. Let's start.
Mikey has notes. So
I know. I
tell
have
him.
a few questions that I think we're gonna be able to like pull into like
Great.
an hour and a half pretty easily. What's a prop master? Let's start there.
Wow.
Yeah. What is a prop master? Chris, you should start with that one actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Tell me.
That's a whole episode right
Yeah,
there.
right.
What
All right,
is a-
sum
To
up
you.
the entirety of everything.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
We could start with
That's
Lauren.
heady. No, I'm just saying, what is a prop
Thanks.
master?
Thanks.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, to me, let's see, what is a prop master? A property master is somebody who is in charge of all of the hand props on the film or the TV show or whatever. And, it encompasses, to me, I think it's one of the positions that encompasses having to deal with and work with every department on a film.
Mm-hmm.
More so than I think almost any other department, because so much of what a property master does is integral in the whole process of filmmaking. So, from the beginning of breaking down a script and identifying what the props are, to working with the director to what their vision of those props are, and then the actors and what their visions of their character is, and helping to develop the character. There's so much that goes into it.
It's taking the visions of so many other people and putting your own vision on it too, and making that come to life.
Yeah, and again, I think that the most important trait of a property master is being able to work well with a lot of people. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, then it goes back to the age-old question of what is a prop. Well, a prop is hand props. It's the traditional stuff. It's food. It's weaponry. But it's also whatever the show needs it to be in that moment. So it's helping costumes or helping stunts or working with actors. You know what I mean? Like, that's why it's such a hard thing to define.
It is. Again, that's why I have to say that when we started the. Nice. You got some reverb out of that thing.
It's like, I don't know how to stop it now that I did it.
When we started looking at the Masters series, the very first class that we talked about was what is a property master, and somehow we just kind of sashayed to the right and started taking on other subjects because it is so huge. And when you start looking at all of the responsibilities that we have and all of the areas that we deal with, it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because there is so much, which is also what makes it such a great job. Okay, right? Because you could be so involved in every aspect of the project that you're working on, because it is character building. To me, that's like the major part of what we do is, sure, we're getting stuff, and we have to have that stuff, and it helps, the actors, but it helps the story. And those are the two things that are the most important part of filmmaking, right? Is the story and the character.
Well, that's one of the things that's my favorite about it is like you never do the same thing twice.
Right.
No matter what you're working on. Like, okay, if you did a cop procedural this time, you might be doing another show that has police in it, but now it's period, or now it takes place in Chicago and it's different. You know what I mean? Like every single show.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that drove me to it too. Is like I remember going through like film school, going to like lighting class, and it's like it's still not like
so
like
niche.
It's cool, but it's not like clicking or whatever. And then finally, when it's like you get around to like the thing, it's like, oh, that is the truck. That's the one truck on set that shows up every day with something completely different on it. Like the thing you're carting off the set every day is something completely different, and it's never the same. And I was like, well, my ADD brain needs that because I just can't do the same thing ever.
One of my favorite things about being a prop master is being able to show up to set and having something different every day, because the idea of sitting in a cubicle job, doing the same thing day in and day out it's soul sucking to me. And so to be able to come in and have that opportunity to bring something new to the table every day is wonderful, because you get this creative juices flowing. And
that's the key right there, is the creative juices. To me, it is like one of the only positions on the film set that outside of writer or director, where you are an actual part of the creative process that changes every single day. You have to roll with it. The whatever the scene is, whatever the subject is, it's different on every show.
And it's so equally right brain, left brain.
Right.
Like you have to be heavy creative, but you also have to be heavy logistical, organized. Like it's both.
Right.
And some people are really strong in both, and some people are better at one side and they bring in other people that are better at the other side. Like that was one thing that was really intimidating for me at the beginning of like, oh my goodness, I don't know all of the things. And I like that puzzle, but it's one of the most intimidating things to be in charge of stuff, is going, I don't know the answer to everything right away.
Yeah. And I think you really, the job requires you to be a problem solver, which is what I like to. And I think after, 30 or however many episodes we've done of this now, and all these property masters come in here, it seems to be the common denominator, is that we are all that jack of all trades person,
master of none,
or master of all.
Props.
Master of the props.
Master of the props. There's a reason they call us masters. I don't know. Did we ever come up with the etymology of how did that happen, where they start calling us masters? I mean, it's
I'm
interesting.
sure there's some theater story back there. Yeah.
That's the key, though,
Yeah.
is theater, right? Because it all started in theater.
I googled a property. What is a property master in
Oh,
film?
nice.
There's an AI overview, and then there's
great.
the Wikipedia one. Was it a property master, also known as the prop master, is an artistic and organizational professional who manages the property department for the film production. They're responsible for all movable items that appear on screen, also known as props, such as hats, guns, and kitchen units.
Yes.
Thank you, AI.
Good old kitchen units.
I don't usually handle hats.
I don't. No, I don't really do hats.
I
or
can just
kitchen
hear the
units.
fight right now. The hat's not a prop.
Good.
Well, the AI said it was.
But AI.
Yeah, I said it was.
Well, you know, the funny thing, one of the things I heard about AI recently is that they haven't taught AI to say, I don't know. So if you ask AI something, even if it doesn't know, it'll give you an answer.
Oh dear.
It'll come up with some kind of answer. So there
The
you have it.
I like the Wikipedia one a little bit better. Yeah, the property master, often called the prop master, is an artistic and organizational employee in film, television, and theatrical production who is responsible for purchasing, acquiring, manufacturing, and properly placing and or overseeing any props needed for a production.
Wait,
That's a little bit better.
Didn't you write the Wikipedia page for this?
Oh, that was you? You edited? Okay, that's exactly why.
This is the self-fulfilling circle.
I swear to God, I did.
That information.
I'm pretty
That's
sure
brilliant.
Teresa wrote that entry.
Oh, there you
in
go.
Wikipedia.
What was it before then? Was it?
I don't remember. You have to look at the edit history.
That's right.
That's fair.
That's
Because that's what
awesome.
comes up when you first Google it, and that's what it needs to be accurate.
Yeah.
People need to know what it is we do when they put into Google what is a property master.
Yeah.
And because what came up before was
Not that.
a joke.
Yeah, part of this podcast is fulfilling that, like, the internet right now is largely an informational void on our
Right.
department or our craft. So
Yeah. Yeah. A prop master to me, I mean, which is why I got into it, was the guy that always got to touch the things and play with the toys that everybody else on set wanted to touch and play with. So, I mean, if that makes sense, that's it. They have the coolest stuff, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And I'm always curious as to what it is that inspired people to get into props. So,
Yeah.
Lauren, can you tell us?
Well, I mean, I started
Other
out in theater, so I was an actor. I have studied Shakespearean acting. It's been super helpful out here in Hollywood. But that's how I got started. And then I just I fell into technical direction in theater. So that's mainly a technical director, like it for the translation into Hollywood world is basically an art director in our Hollywood world for theater. So I would take the designs that are given to me and translate them into building construction drawings and all that stuff and disperse them to the team and have the
Right.
sets built and stuff. So that's kind of what the technical director does in the terms of filmmaking. And I ended up, very long story, but ended up learning monster making and animatronics and that kind of stuff while I
the
was
fun
at
stuff.
UVA, and it was the best. And then I ended up in Hollywood making miniatures, and so I was making miniatures out here for the first 2 years that I
Right.
lived here, and then made the jump over into on set. And my first job was a non-union prop master on set. That was I didn't do the whole PA route to
Right, right.
learn the steps. No, I just dove right in.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but you didn't work for any prop master or anything before that. You they're
Nope.
just like, oh, you're just in charge of the props. Figure it out.
I got my first job was Dave Made a Maze, and it was all cardboard. Everything about it. It was incredibly creative. I made
I'll bet.
booby traps in this labyrinth of cardboard, and it was the most fun I've ever had. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm hooked. This is what I want to do. And I ended up that was my first job, was the prop master on Dave Made a Maze, and it went well. So I just
didn't
kept
run
doing
away.
it. I didn't. Yeah,
Well, that's it.
I didn't bail. So yeah, so I ended up staying, and that was the first one, and I kept going. That was in 2017, I think.
Oh, not that long ago.
2016?
That's
Yeah.
That's amazing. And were you like that as a child as well? Were you a tinkerer?
No,
No?
My mom, she cracks me up. I got this job sculpting puppets. When I moved out here, it was one of those like never say no,
Yeah,
right.
fake it till you make it kind of situations.
Yeah. We all did
and
that.
My friend Sam, Sam Koji Hale, he's one of the best directors for puppetry out here. Like I loved working with him. But the very first job was an interview to make miniature sets. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. That's no problem. Well, in the course of the interview, it turned out like he actually wanted me to like clay sculpt puppets. And I have not sculpted anything in my entire life. I've never taken a single sculpting class. And he was like, so, I mean, how do you feel about sculpting? And in particular in paper clay, because that's what he was working with. And I was like, well, I don't have a lot of experience in paper clay, but I'm willing to learn, like I had experience in other clay.
I don't even know what paper clay is.
I don't know.
It's an air drying clay.
Oh,
it's
I see.
actually very forgiving and a really cool way to sculpt things. And I called my mom and I was like, I think I just got a job as a sculptor. My mom's like, do you know how to sculpt? And I'm like, nope. It's like, not at all.
I love it. That's the first lesson, kids. Just say yes.
Yep. And
Okay.
I made all sorts of movies with him and all sorts of sets and miniatures and props and things for all of his puppets for a couple years. But yeah.
Well, but that attitude can take you a long way, right? I mean, that is kind of the attitude that you have to encompass as a property master, which is, I can do that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know that you can do it, just the fact that you think you can do it and that you want to do it, I think can, win the day. I mean, we've all had to make up stuff.
Yeah, say yes and figure it out.
Figure it
Yeah,
out.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
By the end of that first job, though, since it was such a new thing to you, did you have an understanding what other departments were like within inside the art realm, or was it still like, I'll do whatever this is, or like, did you know props is still where you wanted to like head?
No, well, because I'd done props. I was a prop master in theater as well, so
Okay, yeah.
I knew the job,
Yeah.
but I didn't know the job in the context of filmmaking.
Right.
So I knew what was expected of me. I
Yeah.
just hadn't worked on it on a scale like that before, especially budgeting and like all of this stuff. That was a whole other thing that was crazy to try and figure out. But so I kind of already had a direction of knowledge of what it was to be a prop master. So when I did Dave Made a Maze, I knew I wanted to do props like that. I've always enjoyed that kind of like creative side of things, and I always felt like you don't get to interact with the actors, you don't get to interact with the director if you're in like construction, you're never on set, and it's like, so it's given the idea the difference between like set dressing, which just comes in, they come in and dress entire sets that look gorgeous,
Right.
But they don't interact with the same kind of people that we interact
100%. I came up through set dressing, and it was brutal. I mean, because you're basically a mover.
Yeah.
You were moving a lot of furniture around. A decorator has more creative input. Even a lead man has more creative input. But as a set dresser, you're humping a lot of furniture, and then you're gone. And then all the magic happens.
all the cool stuff happens.
Exactly. I remember in Pittsburgh, right? We had this warehouse that had all of this leftover furniture from all of their offices and stuff, and they just, any film that came into town, they could use all that stuff. So the problem was it was always the same stuff, and there were all these filing cabinets, and they were all full. And so the decorator would come in and say, oh, yeah, I want all those filing cabinets. And then you would have to, like, haul these filing cabinets wherever you went. And in Pittsburgh, a lot of the elevators and stuff were just not working. And I remember had to shoot on this fourth floor of this one building, and we had to hump these filing cabinets, like 40 of them, up the stairs.
Oh, my gosh.
And then, of course, the day before shooting, they came in and fixed the elevator so the crew could get in there. And I was like, I need to be part of the crew. I think.
I'm on the wrong side.
This is not enough. So, yeah, I mean, I think.
Did you guys did any of you guys ever shoot at the old Herald Examiner building? I feel like that was
right.
I feel like that was the case
Yeah.
every single time at that place. That elevator was breaking all the time, and they had the one freaking elevator you can put carts in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'd break halfway through the day.
It'd break halfway through the day.
Like,
We called the guys like, you should have him on staff.
Right.
It's bad.
Well, it turns out it was just like kind of going back to it, but was the miniature shop that I was working for. I used to work for New Deal Studios, and that's how I got the job for Dave Made a Maze.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, because there was a friend of the filmmakers that was also a miniature maker there, and she knew that I wanted to get on set, and so she was like, "Well, hey, I got, do you want to go interview with these guys?" And the interview consisted of me just like sitting down and them kind of being like, "Well, you interested in the job?" And it's like, "Okay, yeah, sure."
Was this a full-time job that you were at? And they were like, "Oh, you guys, you can leave us now and go work
The
on
miniature
it."
job?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at New Deal pretty steadily, but they because they work project to project, and so when they're in downtime, they were nice enough to like let me sweep floors and stuff like that. But you could go and do other things.
Yeah. My story is a little bit similar. I worked at I got a job at a prop house for a year, about a year, and it was like part-time-ish.
Right. Was this L.A. or Florida?
L.A.
Okay.
L.A. So I work at the prop house at Prop Services West. So I'd work there basically, and then they said if a freelance job ever comes through, like don't even worry about it. Like take the job, we'll let you come right back when it's done. And it was great for somebody trying to make it here because it's like they will do. So I like tell people to suggest. I worked at Universal's third floor prop house for on call also. Like it's
well, and that's the hardest part about breaking into the industry as a whole is like trying to get an income source.
Living in LA.
Living in LA that like would let you jump on and off at a moment's notice.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because jobs come out of nowhere, and the jobs that are going to be your line into a door are always like, oh, by the way, can you come in tomorrow?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even wait staff and stuff like that is hard trying to get an income source.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And again, for me, this was a long time ago, but for me, what I did is I started I got a third shift job so I could be available for day work. And so sometimes I would work all night, and then if I got a commercial, I would just go right to the commercial and then do the commercial and then go home and die.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. For me, it was like right at the top of, when gig culture was really taking off in Los Angeles. So you had like Uber and Lyft and stuff like that. And I don't know if you would still consider them like a sustainable source of income, but you could make a decent amount of money in a day driving around for Uber. But also if you didn't show up the next day, nobody cared.
Yeah.
Or if you stopped after an hour, nobody cared. So, it was an okay way to make money.
Yeah. So what about you then? Let's hear your
Theresa.
story. How did you get into prop mastering? What did
Well, I came.
or just how you got into business in general.
Yeah, I came out to Los Angeles to work in movies, and I had worked some in theater beforehand as a stage manager. So I thought I wanted to be an AD because it's very similar with scheduling and managing a project. And I did a little bit of that, but I wasn't like you're scheduling and you're managing, and those people feel the weight of every department on them.
It's all headaches.
And it's all headaches, and it felt very little reward for that. And I took a job, like a random posting as an art PA, and sort of discovered the art department and was like, oh my goodness, people will pay you to do creative stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So
can I back you up? You said random posting. So what was that random posting?
It was a Craigslist post.
Okay.
This wasn't even the thing we met on.
Oh, no.
It was a random Craigslist post. And, Craigslist is still a primary way to answer job postings. There are specific...
Is Craigslist still a thing? Do people
It
still
does
get
exist.
jobs on Craigslist?
It does
it's called
exist.
gigs or something, right?
Yeah, there's crew gigs or something on there.
I used to do that a lot too, but I don't...
I mean, I will offer people the same advice of like anything that looks seedy, like trust your instincts on, but there is real stuff on there. And there's things that I showed up to and I was like, oh, I'm going to go to this interview I found on Craigslist. And I would pull up to the front and I'm like, oh, it's an apartment. No. Right. But like, things that are legit start to, as you get used to it, you recognize what it's supposed to look like.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like you recognize, oh, look, they have call sheets. You know what I mean? Like, oh, look, they have the people with the correct titles that tells you this is, something real. So I got hired as an art PA on a random unpaid art PA jobs
Right.
hired as an art PA.
Allowed.
But yeah, coincidentally enough, I was driving for Lyft at the time and I got in a car accident. So my car was in the shop for 6 weeks. So I couldn't earn any income driving. So I said well, I really like doing this. So if someone picks me up, I'll come and just do this every day. So literally the lead man picked me up every day on the way into work.
What was the scale of this show?
It was probably a $500,000 movie or something.
Okay,
You know
so it
what I
was a
mean?
small little indie feature.
Yeah, everybody else there was getting paid.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know
Right.
what I mean? I'm sure minimum wage, but yeah, but it was still low budget.
You were
indie
very
horror.
But yeah, I'm thinking RPA because in the bigger scale worlds, an RPA pretty much just sits in an office and works in
Yeah,
there.
no, you were set dressing.
Yeah, that's what I was
and
to say.
Fabricating,
Right.
Sure.
Yep.
painting and aging and all that other stuff, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And non-union stuff is really the only place that you're allowed to touch stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Creatively, on film sets. And so, after that, I started pursuing production design because, I got along well with the art director and the decorator and the production. And I was like, oh, cool, I want to make sets. And I was doing that, and I actually, I had 20-something days as a decorator. And I got a call from a friend about, this show is looking for a prop assist. Do you want a prop assist? And it's well, I'm not working right now. I know of the prop department. It's similar to what I do. Why not? And so I was yeah, put me in for that. And then I get a call from the prop master who's hey, I hear you're interested in prop assisting. I was yeah, full disclosure, I've never done that before, but I think I'd be really good at it. It'd be a lot of fun, and I'd love to be on set. And sold myself. And he's okay, cool. Do you want to be the prop master? And I was well, what?
I really sold myself. I don't really know
And
for
so
sure.
he was leaving. He got something else, and he didn't want to be there anymore. And so he was fishing for a replacement.
Wow.
And it was a union show for New Media, which New Media was it doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah, that's
it's
how I got
streaming
in, too.
content. But the New Media contract allowed them to hire non-union people in whatever capacity they wanted, and they could pay them minimum wage.
But you got hours.
You
Yeah.
got hours.
Yeah.
Wow. And they did away with that.
They
Yeah.
did away with
Yeah.
that
That's
2
unfortunate.
cycles ago.
They paid you like crap though.
They paid
So
you-
that's how
But
you
it's
know.
a-
It's an
minimum
open
wage.
door.
No,
was-
it's how I got in. It
Yeah,
was
it's
It was
how
a-
I- it's how I
was
got
a-
into the union.
a contract loophole for
It was a
quite a
loophole.
while.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it was because that show was for Hulu, and that was before, if you said Hulu, nobody knew what
Sure.
you were talking about.
Yeah. Netflix had just started. Streaming
Netflix
was a
had just
new
started.
thing.
Yeah.
That's it. It was
YouTube
brand
Premium,
new. Yeah.
a lot of that type of stuff was just starting out. So there was a really strong mix of some people who really knew what they were doing and some people who had no clue what they were doing.
Right.
My very first job in the prop department was my very first job as a prop master, was my very first job as a union prop master.
Wow.
All in the same thing.
One fell swoop.
Yeah, and it was a television show, so we did 10 episodes.
Wow. And it was episodic on top of that.
Episodic on top of that.
Wow.
But it was a lot of fun. It was about teenagers trapped in a high school during the zombie apocalypse. So it had weapons and guns and electronics and graphics and,
You got the gambit.
But
Yeah.
and
So who
a bunch of
helped you?
stunts.
I mean, who helped you figure out how to break down a script and all that?
I faked my way through it and hoped that nobody noticed. I remember going in on the first day to talk to the then prop master, and I was like, okay, cool. Do you have any photos? Where are your friends? He's like, I don't have any. I was like, oh, okay. Do you have any breakdowns? Do you have scene lists and stuff? He's like, no. Do you have anything? He's like, eh. So, I got handed a brown paper lunch bag that was unlabeled, and you open it inside, and there was a dozen cell phones in it. And I'm walking to set going, does anybody know which cell phone belongs to which character? 'Cause that's what I took over.
Wow.
And so,
How many episodes had been done by the time you came in? Or
one.
One episode.
They did the
okay.
pilot.
Okay.
And was there already a crew besides yourself?
There was the prop department had 2 other people in it, but they were also leaving with the prop master.
Yike.
So I got a lot of help from like the on-set dresser and the costume department and
Right.
The rest of the art department who knew that like I was getting put into a situation where that's sort of designed for failure.
Right.
But it was like sort of just take the logical brain and apply it to the problem and however you think the problem would be solved. And it's sort of like, I don't know, talking to a lot of prop masters that sort of fell into the department, I found that we all figured out how to build the wheel the same way without talking to each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A breakdown is everybody starts with a script and goes, okay, well, what are the props in the script?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
and probably a theater background helped in that capacity because, you're like, well, not all those props are on the page. We figure it out.
Right.
So that helped. And there was a level of forgiveness and everybody knew that, like,
Sure.
it was new media. Everybody knew everybody was getting paid minimum wage.
Right.
And that, like, I didn't get any prep time in any of this. You were just sort of keeping up. But it was a frick ton of fun too. Like, 'cause you're going, okay, well, I need props that some kid could realistically manufacture with what you can find in a school that I can kill a zombie with.
Right.
You know what I mean? And schools are environments designed where everything is kind of safe.
Yeah.
So, like, what can I find and build with? And then how can I take this object and make it stunt safe?
Right.
And don't get me wrong, like, the Theresa now who knows that I was dealing with retractables and foam objects and firearms is like, there's no way in hell I should have been allowed in that situation, but I'm glad that
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah,
out.
it turned out well.
yeah.
Well, and it's funny because my first new media job was how I got into the union as well, was new media.
All 3 of you.
But
Yeah.
was on the same set. Like, we were in the high school set that you guys, like,
Oh,
the
were
building.
you?
Yeah.
I
Like,
didn't.
they
Would I know that?
I don't know, but because the production designer had worked on that show, and they basically just repurposed the high school to
Yeah,
be
that
the
was,
high
like, one of
school
those-
that I was shooting my first show in.
They
Because
shot a ton of stuff on there because they built it for Freakish, and then they shot a bunch
Yeah.
of stuff on there.
and then they shot all night on there, and that was
yeah.
my
That's right. You
Yeah.
worked with Wade. Yeah, Wade did season 2 of Freakish. And I did season 1 and then came back for season 2.
yeah.
Because that was the thing with new media contract too, is you could join the union after 30 days, but you could only work other new media shows.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
If you wanted to work all the other shows in the industry, scale shows that actually paid above minimum wage, you had to earn 150 new media days.
Mine was different. I think they had fine tuned it then for you. You had to do 150 as a new media productions. Yeah, mine was. I was right when they were changing it, I think. So I got in for the new media, and my heart was broken because I hit up 44, and they essentially told me, you shouldn't even join. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll take the money
Yeah.
if you want to give it to us, but there's no place where you can work
They told me-
industry roster jobs.
Yeah.
Well, and that was, I didn't join. I sat on my days for almost an entire year
I did
because I
too.
was like,
Me too.
so you're telling me that I can only work on new media shows that are going to pay me minimum wage, but my dues and my initiation fee cost the same
The
amount of
same.
money
Yeah.
Right.
as if I get to pay scale shows.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
No.
why?
Yeah,
They-
I
it's-
sat on my days until they were
Right to
just
the end.
about to
They
start
were about to
expiring.
expire.
Yeah.
40
And I was like, well, all right, well, I guess I'm joining.
44 called me like when I had there was about to expire, and they said, "Oh, we're changing some stuff now. So if you join under new media now, after just 120 regular days, if you're in under new media under 3 months or 4 months, or however, I don't math well. I'm a prop master.
Somebody else
I
math
hired
for you.
people for that.
However long that is, you just get bumped to the industry roster. So that's all it took, pretty much.
On my initiation day, I got signed in, and my little card said NM on it for new media property master.
Interesting.
And they basically, on the day that I swore in, they said, so you're getting a new media card, but we're actually getting rid of the new media section. So you're going to be folded into the
Industry
regular
roster.
union. And I was like, what? And so I
guys
was
were all-
I must
I was
have
just
gotten
folded
in, like,
in.
right before you guys.
Let's just say
because
you guys all must have been around at the same time.
I joined in 2017.
2018.
2015.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and I was earning, like, I earned the 30 new media days, and I had finally earned the 150 like full new media days. And I was in the middle of actually fighting with contract services over my new media days, and I got on a regular indie feature that flipped.
Yeah.
So I got 30 days from that. But for some reason, contract services, so my assistant Steven did all my shows with me.
Yeah.
He got in. They accepted all of his days, all of his new media, all of his regular movie days. But they were fighting, and they didn't want to take my days. And it was like a fight for several months. Dave Elliott at the hall actually ended up having to scream at contracts or whatever the hell he did that they took my days. But it was like this fight over, well, those days don't count. Well, but they counted for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a good time to tell everybody at home then listening that
What all this means.
the union stuff, like if you're trying to get in, okay, so that's the big, let's talk about this for a minute. So eventually, if you want to work on the shows that you really want to work on, they're all union. You have to be union. Here in Los Angeles, it's a little bit tough because that new media loophole we're talking about doesn't really exist anymore. You have to work on union shows and get your union days in order to get it. But you can't work on union stuff to get your union days unless you're union. So it's kind of like it's a catch-22. You have to work on a non-union show as a position, and what will happen a lot of times, they'll come in and they'll flip it because they're spending too much or something's going wrong where the halls need to come in and make it a better show again, and they'll turn it to union, and will be how you get your days.
So
That's kind of
at
the
this
only
point,
way
there's
now.
there is no mechanism then for people to work non-union and build hours and then be able to get in there.
There's no.
Yeah.
Because the studios, a lot of them have DEI programs now,
Okay.
which are workaround for that. I should just
What
say,
is
though,
DEI? Oh, wait,
diversity, equity initiative.
Right, inclusion.
Inclusion.
There it is. I should just say the one thing about non-union, like if you are on a non-union job, like one of the few phone calls any union hall will take from a non-union person is calling in a show to flip
Right.
it. You know what I mean? Like most of the
Right.
time, if you're non-union, you call the union hall for questions. They're just inundated with other union member stuff that you largely get ignored.
Right.
Yeah.
But calling in a show to try to flip it is a phone call that
Right.
they're interested in from a non-union person, and then you can get your days that way.
Yeah,
But-
I've also found. I mean, I don't know if this is something I need to be. I'll edit it out if I.
There you go.
I can
Caveat this time code.
Yeah, I can edit it out, but I've gotten a lot of my friends into an insistence that I really like. I mean, a lot of people especially if you're in the non-union world after you've worked so many shows, you know your team that you want. If they're non-union, you just turn union. It's tough. So I still, during that time, have been able to get on union shows or movies and stuff like that. But during deep and pre-pro, there's a lot of time where they haven't turned in all their union paperwork yet to officially make the show union.
Right.
If you get them signed onto the project, your assistants, before that, then they technically get flipped in.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
the show flips, even though
Yep.
it was always intending to go union.
Which is basically how I got in.
Right.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so that is how I've gotten people in the past that have tried. I mean, a lot of times tier movies is the best place to do that because bigger shows, they get it in very early before
Well,
you're
and
even
the
on.
other thing too is, and this isn't as true right now as it was pre-2023, that like if the town is so busy that the union
books.
cannot fill the call,
Right.
they can take you and then you can earn a day that way. But that's because everybody on roster is working that they can't fill the call. Well,
Yeah.
that's not the climate right now, and we all
Not
are
even
knocking
close.
on wood that it returns to that climate, but like there's just too many union people right
Sure.
now not working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's enough. I mean, there's a lot of non-union work, so I don't think anybody should be discouraged, though.
No,
If-
absolutely
yeah.
not. Okay, because there are a lot of non-union work out there
Yeah.
all over the country. So let's talk about that a little bit. What do you do if you're just some person in another town, not even this town, and you decide you want to get in the film industry? What's our advice to you? I mean,
I started my career in props in Florida, so in Orlando. So it's something I went to film school around there, and I graduated, so I knew I wanted to get into it. But I guess like anybody starting out, I didn't have the money to move to LA,
Right.
so I didn't really know anybody there. I think every town has like they'll have like their local like film commission and stuff like that. That's a good resource to start. Facebook groups I think are always the best place right now to go to also. Or for me back then it was Craigslist like we were talking about earlier. I found the one art department group in Central Florida that pretty much worked on everything that came through. They would work on features that would come through. They would work on all the commercials. They would work on reality home makeover type shows. Like you name it. We did it all. And I got in good with them fresh out of college as like an intern just helping set dress. And then after like they liked me after that first gig, I pretty much worked nonstop as either a set dresser or a prop assistant for the prop person.
Well,
Go ahead.
I found making yourself hireable in the film industry looks completely different than the advice everybody gives you on every other job path. Like our resumes look different, and how we like solicit for a job looks different. Like I was told very early on, if you see a job posting and you don't respond within the first 15 minutes of its posting, don't bother, because they will have gotten hundreds of answers by then.
That's true.
Yeah.
And like a cover letter for us doesn't look like any other industry. Like you get taught in college and everything else that it needs to be this long thing in which you go into like company mission goals and stuff like this, and you explain yourself. And I got in film to the point where when I would respond to a job posting, I would say, "Hi, I saw your posting. I'm available these days and interested. Would love to talk about the project. Here's my website." Like 2 sentences, minimal information. I'm available. I want to do this. If you want to click through to my like my website's right here. Like as fast and digestible as possible to communicate to people.
Yeah. 100%.
And I lived on the Facebook groups as a result.
And did all three of you go to film school?
No.
You
I didn't go to film school.
I went to college, but yeah.
Do you feel like that helped you get a job, having gone to film school?
That's a good question. I would say it's a tough question. I would say yes and no. So, I mean, if you look at any of the Facebook groups and they talk about college or whatever, everybody like jumps down like, no, you don't need college. You don't need. I don't think you need it. I do think it helped. I didn't fully understand the film industry until Florida. Half the jobs I got when I first got to LA, I got a job 3 days after being in LA, and that was because there was a person from film school that I like smoked joints with that knew me and was like, you know what I mean? It's like the connections that you make I think are very important and a lot.
I think that probably the difference between like an East Coast school and a West Coast, like if you come to Los Angeles, it doesn't help you build relationships the way if you went to school out here might have. I will say, I mean, I'm 15 years out of college now, but like it still meant something to have a degree on your paperwork.
Yeah. I don't think... what it did teach me, there was one producing class that I had, and there was a piece of advice that the producing teacher... It was the best advice that I've ever got from anybody. I could have gone for one day and just got that, and it would have been fine. Like it was a whole thing. And he had said it's a numbers game. Like you go out wherever you want in this country. It doesn't matter where you go. You find those people doing the job that you want to do. Right. And he's like, find their emails and like get IMDb Pro, do whatever you do, find their emails and just start emailing people. Email 100 people a day. Right. They're like, if you didn't send out 50 to 100 emails that day, then you don't want it bad enough. Yeah. So they're like, just keep emailing them. And they're like, out of that, maybe you'll get one response a day. And out of that, then out of 100 of those responses that you get, maybe one will actually like help you get in the door a little bit. And that's how I got my first chunk of work out here. Like it just emailed cold calling. Just
it was the same thing. Like I started every day, like I'd get up and jump on the computer first thing and send, like I'd check all the different sites and answer every single one of them, and by lunch I've done the same thing again, and by the end of the day I've done the same thing again to email as many as possible and live on live on social media to just try to catch them as soon as they come out.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, I think I learned valuable things from college that helped me, but I think probably, like, my film background didn't help. Like, learning film classes didn't help me at all.
Right.
And it's just because the school that I went to was geared towards writing, directing,
Right.
lighting, and camera.
Yep.
And that was not my skill set. So taking fine arts classes actually did way more for me.
Sure.
Taking like marketing classes did way more for me because we interact so much with product placement. Like, you don't need to have gone to film school
Right,
to get
right.
there at all.
Well, and for me, because I was at the University of Virginia for my second master's degree, because I had no idea what I was doing with my life, and the whole reason I got out here was because we had a class called the Art of the Moving Creature that was brought to us by the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, who are a bunch of Stan Winston's son, Matt Winston, created this school to teach special effects makeup and, you know, all miniature making, like all this stuff. They taught us this class and they came out to teach it in Charlottesville. And essentially, every time they were there, I was the first one in and the last one gone. And I worked my butt off
There you go.
every day they were there. And I'll never forget it. Shannon Shea came up. He sidled up next to me and he goes, "I just want you to know, we see you." And he walked away. And I was like, they see me, you know? and it worked.
That's
I
the
mean,
best compliment you could ever ask for.
They were the ones that got me into New Deal Studios
Right.
making miniatures
And that's
out here.
And that's the key. I mean, breaking in, getting your first opportunity is hard. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but it's about perseverance. But when you do get that shot, it's about how you perform. Okay, and I can't accentuate that enough. You have to be hungry and you have to be willing to do whatever it takes and work at the top of your ability and have a great attitude about it. Okay, because that will stand out. That's what people notice. When you come in and you work, the first time a PA works, you know a PA is they're gonna make it by their attitude, how they work, how they operate.
Totally.
You know, and because there's so few people that are like that, when those people come in, they just stay because they're so, you know, and people will move them up and they will hire them again. So I can't reiterate enough that it's really all about that.
Yeah.
Well, and when you decide to take on somebody that you know is greener, that you're going to
Right.
train, there's no extra hours allotted to training. There's no extra budget allotted to training. So it's because somebody went, I think that person would be really good, and I'm going to put the effort into onboarding them and teaching
Right.
them what this is going to be like. So, like, being that person that somebody wants to invest into
Yes.
Yeah.
is the difference.
That's why I want to hammer the cold emailing thing one more time, because I mean everybody in this room has probably gotten these emails. Like I get them on a monthly basis. That is just cold emails from a person that's coming out and moving to LA, or someone from Australia hit me up not too long ago and was just like, "Oh, like I really want to get in. What can I do?" I was working on my truck that week. I was like, "Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to come by ISS, I'll show you what a prop trailer looks like. I'll give you a tour of ISS," because it was just, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Right.
If somebody reaches out to you, like, it's easy. Facebook will get you work, so I don't want to discourage that. But it's very easy to send in a message to reply to a film job posting, and whoever is posting that's getting hundreds of replies, so you kind of get lost in the thing. Not everybody is doing these cold emails,
Right.
and that shows one step ahead of what a lot of other people are doing. Like that you're going to be first on that person's
Right.
mind from
Yep.
that,
And
just
also,
from doing that, you know?
And also going to prop houses. Most prop
Totally.
houses are not on studio lots.
Right.
So in theory, any person can walk in and visit a prop house.
Right.
Just walking through a prop house is a huge educational experience that is going to need to be information that just lives in your brain for your entire career. But you can't go to a studio and knock on the front door and
Right.
submit a resume. But you can go to a prop house
Right.
and talk to people that work there. And they're really friendly people. And you may or may not see prop masters there, but all that staff that works at there knows all of us.
Right.
And they know when we're looking for work, and they know, when we're short staffed or we need somebody that has a specialty, or, or just looking for a PA to be a part of the team. So
I went to ISS when I first got here, and they had cards on like pin boards.
Yeah.
And I was just pulling cards off of things and emailing prop masters. I was
Nice.
like, hey, like I'm new, if you ever need any,
Right.
and not many of them replied because there's
Sure.
really not much they could do for me at a union level,
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But a few of them were just like, persevere, you can do it. And
Yeah.
and it was really encouraging, but I got like straight up just emails off of like cards that were pinned to boards at ISS.
Yeah. And again, nowadays, there are a lot of these non-union sites or job offerings on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well,
I need
which-
art
art
department's a
department.
big one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get it's art department / film and television industry. Another one is paid film and television production jobs. In the Los Angeles area, it's film and television production jobs and internships. Wherever you are in the country, obviously you have to be in a market where they're making films.
Yeah.
Okay, if
Yeah.
if you're in Des Moines, Iowa, you're not going to get a job.
Yeah. But even
Okay. But-
I'm doing New England. They have film jobs in New England. Like there's,
100%.
I bet you there's. You just
And-
look up film jobs wherever you're at.
Yeah.
You'll find it.
And again, that's the first step, is to get on anything. Okay, because again, when I first started, I knew nothing. I had no idea, and I happened to know somebody who was a casting director, and she let me videotape her casting sessions. And what that afforded me was to meet producers as they were casting their commercials, is what it was. And I just basically said, listen, I'll work for free. Okay, I just want to get in. And eventually somebody hired me or brought me on. Okay, paid me $50 a day or whatever. I couldn't believe they paid me. I couldn't believe I was making money doing it. Okay, and again, from that moment on, it's how you perform that will elevate you, because not everybody can do this. Okay, I mean, there's no glamour behind the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you think that that's what it's going to be, it's not. Okay, it's going to be a lot of hard, thankless work. I remember having to sweep up cigarette butts after a beer commercial in the parking lot. Okay, while everybody else was drinking beers. Okay, but you just have to do whatever it takes to get in and to show yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways we talked about that and kind of how to get in. You guys you didn't do much assisting, huh? You were both just straight prop mastering, and
I didn't start assisting really until recently.
No, yeah, and it's funny because I have good friends who sort of came up at the same time that I did, and I took the path of like I kept getting the phone calls to master something or taking a job posting to master something, and saw others taking assistant work, and it's like, so my credits kept saying Property Master on some show you've never heard of, Property Master on some show you've never heard of. And theirs are saying prop assist on shows that are like, oh, look, Ma, I came to Hollywood and worked on a real show.
Yeah.
So it was like this long path of like, what is the right way to best pay off getting to where you want to be, right? Like everybody wants to work on like the next Iron Man as a prop master, right?
Sure.
So like, what's the best path there? Is it working for other property masters, or is it department heading on smaller stuff and hoping that you keep making a move up in your career? And I think it's probably a little bit of both. Like I've most recently moved to working as as an assistant prop master, like almost for the first time, to make a different career move. Because I worked a lot on the lower budget stuff in horror and stunt heavy stuff, action heavy stuff, period stuff, and I really enjoyed that. Like I have over a half dozen period feature credits under my belt, and I really love it. But then as you get into higher level film and television, they don't say anymore, oh, as a woman you can't do that. But they say, oh, but wouldn't you be happier on this coffee cup show?
Wow.
Like, wouldn't you be better suited for this cooking show? And it's like, there's nothing in my like, we all find the fun stuff in every job, but that's not my resume. So you're not saying that because of my work history. You're saying it because of who I am.
Right.
Like, so I wanted to make a jump, and so I specifically pivoted to go, I think department heading, I've hit a glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And so I need to try a different approach.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of my first jobs was as a prop master in the prop department, and I prop mastered it, and I think I got into the union. A couple I did like 3 features, and then I got into the union, and I think I assisted like a day just because it was like a bigger paycheck at the moment on like Teen Wolf, and I saw the sets there, and I was like, yeah, maybe I should like assist a little bit and like see how the big people do it. Right. I was like, I feel like I'm out of my element if I think I'm gonna like be able to get handed one of these shows.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's also a lot of value, I think, once you get in assisting big prop masters,
right,
and running a truck, like if you've never ran a truck, and running a set if you've never, especially on a big scale like show and stuff like that, seeing what shows like Westworld look like, or you know what I mean, and how it feels to even assist the onset on there, or run the background on those shows.
In hindsight, much better path if you can find someone to assist under.
Sure.
Like, there would have been so many problems that I had to reverse engineer solutions for, just because there was no one to ask.
And there was no one to ask.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, before the PMG was around, there really wasn't anyone you could talk to get answers about, and it was all very gatekeepy. And I remember trying. It was on the first like new media job for All Night. I was trying to get product placement, and I just figured out what product placement even was, and I'm like, who do I call for whatever? So I ended up on like, I need art department or something that, and I posted like, does anyone have the contact information? I don't know what it was. We'll just say Apple. And it basically was like, there were crickets. And then there were some people that were coming on that were just like, if you don't know the answer for this, you are not a prop master, and you don't need to know, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but I really just need to know who to call. Like, could you...
I still remember the first time I went to ISS, and I needed a pair of license plates. Right? Like, the simplest problem in the world. And it's like, okay, I wandered around to the back of the warehouse, and I found the license plates, and I walk into the sales pit, and I'm holding up a pair of license plates in my hand, standing in the middle of the bullpen going, like, I don't know what comes next.
What do I do now?
Like, I don't know where I go from here. And, like... Yeah. God bless Jordan Snyder, who like looks over and probably sees like this total deer in the headlights. It's like, do you need help? Yes.
That was Jason Moore for me. Like, he just saw me wandering around ISS. He's like, do you need some help? I'm like, yes. Like, please.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
It's
here.
almost harder in the beginning than it is like because now it's like we could just text somebody and get anything we want.
No,
like,
it's amazing.
That's what I mean.
Thank God that's over.
Yeah.
Right.
It gets better, I promise.
It does get better, I swear.
It gets better than everything.
That's what the PMG's here for, people.
Yeah.
No, exactly. You're so right though, because I would never post anything because you'd get eaten alive. And that was like that was less than like 6 or 7 years ago.
Less than 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's much more supportive now.
Yeah.
Most people, if you were to like, if a friend stumbled upon that post, they might private message you and be like, hey, it's okay. Yeah. Here.
I think you did that for me a couple of times.
Sure, and other people did it for me, and it's like, because wading
I did
into
it
that
for you 2
nest
weeks ago.
was such a mess.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry.
No, but it was a very toxic community, and largely a lot of those groups are, and it's a really unfortunate form of gatekeeping.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, not with the PMG now.
That's right.
And that's the best part, honestly, because it's putting it. You even after having done this now, I've been out here for 10 years, and the idea of being able to just like text Guillaume Delouche, and be able to like ask him a question about some guns,
right,
and he'll reply, and he'll be nice about it, and it's just
encouraging about it,
about it, like people just being able to have that community built in, and not being nervous about like. They think I'm going to ask a dumb question, or I should know this, but I don't. And who do you ask without making yourself feel like you're an idiot?
Right.
And that's been the best part for me, is building this community with you guys and being able to have a support structure where Mikey can just text me, yo, dude, here's the number that you need for this person. Because I'm just like, I don't know who to call. I've never, because every job is different.
Yes.
And every job you're like, I've never had to do crack cocaine on screen before.
Right.
I got to figure that out.
That's not the number I texted her, just to clarify.
Crack cocaine
I
guy.
was not the crack cocaine guy.
Mikey would never get
I got a guy. I got a guy for that. But, you know, like even on the job I'm on now, there are things that I have never had to do before. And it's just like, I don't know. How do you do that? Let's find out. So it's just, you know, every job is learning something new, but it's so nice to have that structure or support structure, because I know a person that had to do a really heavy drug movie, or, you know, Josh Bramer, who did Euphoria, who's got a lot of drug stuff happening in that show. So I'm like, you know, shoot him a text, figure it out. I know the people that are making the shows.
Right.
And so I'm just like, I'll just email them. It'll be great.
Well, yeah, I felt like before the PMG, like I never, even if I knew who did that, even if I knew how to get a hold of them, there was this sense, and maybe it was self-imposed, that like, if I said to you, how do I do that? That's me admitting that I don't know something.
Right.
Like, is that going to be judged upon me as a level of incompetence? It's mostly probably from those Facebook groups that's like, how dare you not know the answer to this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not a real prop master
Well,
if you don't know how to do blah, blah.
That's with prop mastering, it's so different. And Chris, you could probably speak to this since you've been in it longer than any of us. Like, I don't think there's ever a job where you're gonna have all the answers. Like, there's always new stuff you have to figure out that you didn't know from the last job.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And that's, again, part of what's fun about the job is having to do your research. You know, that's like the funnest part of the job for me, especially like if you do a period film or something where you just don't know that field. Again, you know, I'm on a medical show now. I've done medical shows before, but whenever you do a medical show, you have to expand your understanding of things a lot. I mean, you have, you know, and then there's tech advisors that you could call on to help you with these things. But getting back to like reaching out to the community, again, we never had that. Everybody kept their cards so close to their chest. Now you go on to, you know, Union Prop Master website, our Facebook page, and you ask questions, and there's 15 people have so much experience giving you all this information that is just like, it's gold.
Yeah.
It's absolute gold. That and it's so great that we have that and can do that for each other now. So yeah, I mean, to me it was, you know, again, I spent first 10 years of my career just making it up, really. Just I mean,
Didn't we all?
I could remember being on my trailer trying to figure out what safety was on the gun. It's like, is red mean it's hot, or does that mean it's ready to fight, or does that mean it's the safety's on? And be like, I have to do a test fire here.
God bless YouTube. Like, you know, because someone on the internet has figured everything out.
Oh my God, that's
somewhere.
so true.
Yeah.
I had to do that with a gun once where it's a TV show, you know, it's running and gunning. I mean, you don't have time to think on a TV show half the time.
Yeah.
If you could get something in front of camera, you're doing good. Okay. And we had to do this funeral scene at the cemetery with a 12 gun or 14 gun salute, whatever the hell it was. And I had to, you know, get these specific rifles for that. Okay. So I got, you know, ISS, they hooked me up. They got me all the guns. I threw them in my car, I drove them out to set. And I realized I don't know how to load this weapon at all. Okay. So here I am in the back of my truck while they're setting the scene up, like getting a YouTube video on how to load this weapon.
Yep.
And it worked.
And we've all done that.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
that's
we've all been there.
it.
Like, you know, you rent a firearm, and you're like, we're gonna do a scene of him, you know, firing from blank. And you're like, okay, cool. I talked to the gun room. I'm fully prepped for this. I feel good. It's like, actually, first we're gonna do a scene where he takes the gun apart and cleans it, and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah, we can do that. I need 2 minutes.
That's
How
right.
to take apart.
Frick, do you take apart this style gun?
So my first time Teen Wolf, whatever, I never touched a gun before in my life, and I had my EFP because that's what you needed to have to get jobs, right? So the prop master sent me to ISS, and they're like, "All right, go rent this gun, and then have them teach you how to like take it apart and clean it and do the stuff." The gun was a 1911, which is one of the most complicated guns.
Yes, it is.
The handguns to take apart and clean. It's got like when the top piece comes off, there's like a little spring on the
That
barrel,
spring
and
will
that
just-
little cap that
fly across the
It'll
room.
fly across the room
the minute
so
you take it.
fast.
And yeah, God bless John, who's now he's one of our favorite prop assistants.
John's awesome.
John Welsh?
John Welsh, yeah, who was in there, and he sat down there with me, I think, for like 2 hours. The thing. And he's like, all right, here's how you do it. All right, now I'll walk you through how you do it. He's like, be careful with the thing. He goes, all right. It's like, all right, now just you do it. And we just sat there forever. But thank God for them to like do it. And that's what, so people getting in, they can ask those questions. They will help you.
Yeah.
100% they will help
Yeah, that's so great.
you. Yeah. Oh, man.
Man, okay. We talked about how to get into it, resources that you can get in. Now I think
We should just name drop like
Sure.
Hollywood CPR and
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
That was the other thing.
what's the other street lights,
Street lights?
which are not, they don't get you necessarily into the prop department, but they get you really good experience
Right.
on being on a film set, which is paramount to our department, and it's classes that anyone can sign up and take. I think it's only in Los Angeles, but
I think you're right about Hollywood CPR and streetlights. Yes.
they can then place you on film sets.
Right.
There is a path through those programs to get your union card.
Yeah.
So there are more resources now, when we talk about all the back doors have closed, there are now more official resources.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll post all this stuff online, all these
Yeah.
websites.
Teresa, remind me to do that.
Yeah, they actually are on our website now. If you went
great.
under
See that?
our education section of our website, you'll find the links to all of them. But
Great.
yeah, we should highlight them on this podcast.
Yeah, totally. There's lots of good Zoom groups and stuff like that going on. So get involved with those. Show up to our events and get to know prop masters. I think
Yeah.
that's a big one too.
We look grumpy, but we're friendly.
We're very we're very
Just
friendly.
because we're so tired.
I was going to say, it's because we're lacking sleep deprivation.
Yeah, and most studios now have diversity programs
Totally.
that can be applied to, so that there are more official programs now
Yeah.
that are worth looking into.
Yeah. So last subject I want to talk about now that we've showed you how to get into being a prop master and all that stuff is we've covered it a little bit in the beginning, but what really a prop master does and everything like that. So I want to start this question towards Teresa, since she's been working on a lot of these big shows with a lot of prop making. What is the difference between a prop master and a prop maker? Since a lot of people that are asking the questions are like, oh yeah, I just build props all day. I make props and I for cosplays and stuff like that. Like, I'm really good at that. Explain the difference of what a prop maker is and a prop master is, and maybe there could be a different path for that type of person.
Yeah, so a prop master oversees the entire prop department and is responsible for from page to going on screen to back in a wrap box after the shoot is done, managing all of that process and whatever that means. A prop maker is responsible for physical fabrication. Now, that being said, too, the term prop maker can mean a couple different things
Right.
in a couple different
Totally.
markets.
It could be
For instance,
construction.
for instance,
Yeah.
in Los Angeles, they call the construction people who build sets prop makers. Prop makers can also build hand props, but they're a lot of times more aptly referred to as prop shop, which is a special card that they get to go into the weeds. But it means that they build hand props. Maybe they have a background in LEDs or in model making or in mold making, 3D printing.
Yep.
It's a lot of fabrication skills, and they will usually either work for a prop shop or they'll get staffed on a show in that show's prop shop,
Right.
reporting to the prop master or reporting to the shop foreman. But they would be a really important part of the prop team, but that doesn't make them a department head. There are prop masters who did that or came into it because they had strong building skills.
Yeah.
But it's a member of the team, not the department head.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. And prop masters as a whole, there's so much that goes into prop mastering. You got to read a lot of the script like a million times.
Right.
Well,
And there's budgeting.
yeah, and
The
a lot
budgeting
of
is
people
crazy, yeah.
divide their department responsibilities up slightly differently depending on the prop master. You know what I mean, Mr. I Hate Numbers would probably have somebody else like doing his receipts and his
100%.
Oh yeah,
you know
I don't do that.
purchase orders and stuff like that.
I tell production, you do not want me doing math.
It took me forever to give up that because I felt like I didn't have a
still
strong
do
handle
that.
of the money if I wasn't touching the
Right.
receipts.
I just get reports.
Yeah, that's what I said. He's like doing the budgeting.
It was a growing pain.
Yeah, I'm very good at doing the budget. Like I can do the budget, like budget out episodes, budget out a
Yes.
show, come up with a number, and say
Yeah.
this is the number it's
Yes.
going to cost us, and this is where we need to sit.
You have to do that.
And after I give it to my coordinator shopper, then she just makes. If we get any danger of coming
That's
outside
right.
of that number, she's like, "Hey, like."
We're about to go over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Right.
No, she'll
Yeah.
let me know a few $1,000s before. There's a little bit of a
that thing
cushion.
that you approved without talking to me first?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, and again, getting back to prop making and manufacturing, a lot of these prop houses that we talk about have manufacturing branches to them. So if it's something specific that you're interested in, more fabrication than actually being a prop person on set or being a prop masters, you can contact them about their manufacturing branches as well, and there are a lot of people out there that are doing that. So
That was the saddest part for me when I had to choose.
Right.
Because my background is in building, and I still do miniature making in non-union shops because
Yeah.
I do that in between prop mastery
That's
jobs
great.
because I need that fix of
Yeah.
like tiny things. Like I can focus on making this teeny tiny fence, and no one will bother me with any other budgeting questions or
Exactly.
anything like that. I'm
Well-
just gonna make this one thing.
And that being said, having a really strong background in how to take things apart and put things back together and
Yep.
how to know how things work is really valuable
Yeah.
as a prop master or as a set
Absolutely.
person.
right.
Because there's usually not a fabricator on set. And I
Totally.
can't tell you
Correct.
how many times you're in the trailer and this thing comes back to set that went out in one piece
Yep.
and came back in 18 pieces. And it's
Yes.
now 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
And it needs to go back to set. So,
Right.
like, you and a bottle of super glue and an Allen wrench are the tools that you have to figure that out.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, those are the most difficult horror stories I've ever heard are when people are on set trying to fix things for the next take because they keep getting broken every take.
Every take.
Yeah, I mean, and it's and it could be the simplest thing that you never think it's going to be, and then it is, and that's where the rubber meets the road
Yep.
Yeah, and
when you're doing that. And again, those skills come in really handy, being able to be the jack of all trades, to be able to fix things on the fly. And again, this is a different subject that we'll talk about at some point, but that's also why it's great to fight for your trailer or fight for a truck. It's because that is your workshop, okay? And so if you don't have that, then you have one hand tied behind your back.
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, and with all this, it's not to say that like being a prop master. We're not saying you can't make anything. We make lots of things.
Oh, sure.
I mean, the heavier manufactured things, yes, you have to go through somebody else to get them done. But there's a line. There's like a weird line
Right.
somewhere.
Well, the amount of times that it gets invented, while the cameras are going up on shoulders,
Yep.
and there's no time for the,
100%.
Oh yeah, I mean, glue becomes your best friend. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a quick little leather, like having like little skills like leather work and,
Yes.
and drawing in your back pocket
Right.
or sculpting a little bit
Yep.
with you. It's like you don't have to build the whole thing, but having those skills to make like things on the fly that can happen on set is definitely very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And the team is like another thing. Like that's another thing I don't think people know when they're getting into this is you got to know how to manage the team more than anything.
Right.
Half the time, the hardest part of our job is managing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important too to be able to know yourself, know your strengths and your weaknesses, and
Yep.
hire your crew accordingly.
Yes.
Because you need to be able to take your weaknesses and find those strengths in other people and bring them in so that you are a balanced team. And I think that's probably one of the most important things I learned when I first
Yeah,
started.
absolutely. Because I did the same thing where in the beginning, I just wanted, I had to do everything.
Yeah.
Okay. And it drives you insane and you can't do everything. So you have to learn to delegate. And that's the hardest part when you're so controlling as most prop masters.
Yes.
That was so
We're all
hard
type
letting
A.
go. And it was like I didn't really have to face that until I was working in television. Like in
Right.
features, you do most of the prep in
Sure.
prep,
Yeah.
and then you're on set. Where in television, it's like, well, they're shooting until 7:00 in the morning, and there's a 9 a.m. concept meeting,
Right.
Yep.
and you
Can't be
you
in
can't
both
do
No.
both.
places. No, I know. And that's like Mikey said, managing people, that's the hardest part of the job a lot of the time, because not everybody has your same work ethic. Okay, that's what I find, and you do all this great work in prep, and then you turn it over to somebody. It's like giving your baby to a stranger. It's like, okay, bye.
Yeah, being able to trust them that they would bring the same,
right,
quality control.
Exactly. And again, that's the other thing that people should know getting into the business, that it is a collaboration in every single way, not just with other departments, but within your own department. And being able to lean heavily on your people and trusting and having that whole team effort. Okay. I mean, that's everything.
Yeah. I would say probably on just about every show, if not every show, every member of the team contributes something creatively that ends up on screen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? From the shoppers to, the third assist on set. Everybody is bringing stuff that ends up directly in front of camera.
Yeah, and it's great to foster that in your people, too, because then they're more engaged in it as well.
They care more about the story.
100%. And guess what? We don't always have the best idea. I find it a lot of times I'm like so anal about one thing, and then one of my assistants will offer a different solution. I'm like, I didn't even look at that. Okay, and it's the answer.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Definitely. So, any lasting words of advice for people getting into the industry or becoming a prop master? Does anybody want to add anything?
I don't know. The advice that I pass on from everybody, and I'll butcher the quote, is like the Harrison Ford quote of like, success in this industry is outlasting everybody else you got off the bus with. Like, it's about the long game.
Yeah.
It's so front end really abusive, like asking for well beyond the hours that you're getting paid for and well beyond the appreciation you will ever receive for the work you're done. But it pays off.
Yes.
Like, it will pay off.
Yeah.
If you can figure out how to be persistent enough.
Yeah. I've seen more people come to tears just trying to get into the union and get so close but not get it. If it takes 5 years, it's going to take 5 years.
Yeah.
For most people, it does. So
I did 10 years in non-union before I got
Yeah?
Yeah,
That's
it took
crazy.
me 6.
Yeah.
And film is the definition of the world isn't fair. Like,
Right.
there are
Oh my
people that get it in 30 days. There are people that got off the bus and went to the diner and met the whatever guy whose kid is hiring. Like,
No.
Right.
that's the world.
It
but
is.
like,
It is.
I believe everybody that works hard enough finds their niche somewhere.
That's right. And you it has to be what you are destined to do. I mean, you really have to be all in about it and persevere.
Yeah.
Because you will hit a lot of roadblocks, but again, if you're passionate enough, that passion comes through. It just does.
And just speaking for the people out of town, just another thing too, which is why I left. And I'm not encouraging everybody in small towns to leave, but I left Florida as I got my union acceptance letter pretty much to there to be able to go up. But I also was on every single job that was shooting in the area, and I always worked under the same team, under the same people. I think I saw a light, depending on what the market was in that, not small town of Orlando, but small film town, I should say. And I saw that firsthand, this guy is not going to stop prop mastering anytime.
Right.
It's competitive in the fact to where I'm never going to be able to prop master because he's doing it. He's the guy. I can work under him forever, but if I want to get that position on the majority of the jobs, I'm not going to go against him, or I got to wait for this guy to retire or die or something.
And also know that chances are good your first job isn't going to be doing props. Okay, I mean, again, for me in Pittsburgh, back in the day, you did whatever job came into town if you wanted to keep working.
Totally.
So I worked as a location scout. I started as a PA in our department, PA location scout, a cat wrangler. I mean, it's just whatever.
You were a cat wrangler?
I was a cat wrangler on a Dario Argento movie. It was hysterical.
Yeah.
But, it was whatever you
never know what makes the connection that gets you somewhere.
100%. And everything you learn, everything you do is learning something new. Like I was a scenic on a lot of different. I was on Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I was a scenic. On Silence of the Lambs, I was a scenic. Okay, and you learn those skills, and those have come in handy my whole life. The charge painter taught me how to age. how to block age and stuff. And, so as prop masters, we have to age things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I met a craft service person who became one of my best food stylists.
Yeah.
Like, you never know.
The
100%.
production designer that got me into the union, I met him working at Mattel, and we were both just really good at laying vinyl.
Right.
And the two of us were like the vinyl laying like dynamic duo for Mattel for like
Nice.
6 months. And he got the Wade Morrison. He got the job for All Night, and that's what got. And he hired me to be his prop master, and I met him laying vinyl
and
at
that
Mattel.
and that's the key. The key is if you could get the face to face,
Yeah.
if you could get in front of somebody and meet them personally. So I had this idea. I don't even know if it's worthy, but even if you could get on a show as an extra, okay, just so you're there, you're on set, you see what's going on, you could understand what's happening, and maybe you have an opportunity to talk to somebody, who in the prop department, if that's what you're interested in, say, because if you're an extra, you'll be dealing with the prop department. May not be nice, but
Return your props.
yes, please return your props. Be nice to your props, and you're halfway there already.
Well, ours is an industry of personality hires.
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
you have to be good at the job, but to some extent, I think you have to be personality first and then good at the
Yeah.
job.
That's good advice,
Yeah.
actually.
Because-
That's the
Great
best
advice.
advice here
Like-
tonight, actually. I
Right.
think it's...
When you work in film, you're working 12 to 15
Yep.
hours a day, 5 to 7 days a week with people, and
Right.
you need to be someone that people want to be around.
Amen, sister.
12 to 15 hours a day, and that they know that you don't go off when,
Right.
you know what I mean, and throw something when
Right.
it's 3 o'clock
or
in the
that
morning.
you just talk too much, or
Yeah, like...
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's if you're like an all-night shoot. I mean, don't get caught sleeping in the corner of a bus or something or anything like don't do that. But yeah, your personality, I think, is going to get, if you can like keep the energy up at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's going to mean everything. And
100%.
that's going to keep people wanting to bring you back. Like, oh, I could actually, like, he was cool. He did what I needed to, but yeah, he was like, I could talk to him.
And it also means you'll slot in with some teams and completely butt against other
Right.
Oh, yeah.
people, because it is so personality based.
Yeah.
100%.
There's a lot of people that just will not work with a lot of other people, but
Sure,
then
yeah.
in their next show, they're amazing. Everybody vibes so well.
Right. So true.
When
Yeah.
you find your team, it's your team.
I know.
It's like,
Boy,
yeah,
that's the gravy right there.
right?
Yeah, it's most painful right now too, because then you feel like you're responsible for keeping them
Yes.
working.
I know. As somebody
We're
who's
saying people.
considering retirement, my crew's like constantly, "You're not going anywhere."
They're just gonna prop you in the
That's
corner
it.
somewhere.
You just get the job. We'll do everything. Like, yeah, that's not going to
That's
happen.
not how that works.
Well, what do you think? Is that all we got? Are we going to wrap up?
I think so. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I think we've covered all the bases.
Yeah, I did. Stick with it. Go ahead. Reach out to any of us in the guild too. I
Yes.
mean, it's insane.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I'm always. I might regret this if my inbox just blows out. But feel free to reach out to us. Like, we'll give you any more advice or whatever. This is a really good suggestion. I don't want to leave without mentioning we received a lot of emails from you guys, a lot of messages on Instagram, and a lot of stuff. I think we put out an Instagram post or something asking people to make suggestions.
Yes.
What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys came in with flying colors. So thanks. We have a lot of. We've read everything, and I have it on my list. I have
That's
a
right.
list of
Some
topics
things
to
are
go.
in motion.
Yeah, and we've reached out to all the prospective people to do those types of episodes. Some of them are going to take longer than others.
Right.
So if you sent it to us, there's chances are it's coming. It might take a few months because we want to get the right people on at the right times, and that becomes an availability thing.
Right.
So they'll come. We're going to do the truck episode at some point on the
Yep.
trailers. We're going to do the out of town Chicago episode at some point. We're going to do the Doug Harlocker episode. Hopefully, if he ever comes to town and we can catch him.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
swear they're going to happen. So go ahead, keep messaging us the suggestions. We like to hear from you, and we like these topical conversations too.
Well, and as far as meeting people, in Los Angeles, we do an event almost once a month
Yeah.
that anybody
Yes.
Right.
related to that is welcome to come to. We do them in Vancouver now. We've done some stuff in Toronto just this past weekend. We're probably going to be doing stuff in New York soon. So, like, keep an eye out. You know what I mean? Like, and everybody is always welcome at those events.
We're doing a pretty big event this weekend, actually. So are we allowed to talk about?
What's happening this week?
You guys, I was
Now
trying to
you're
do the
dating
time.
this.
Yeah, no, I'm not dating this because the tailgate's this week, guys.
Oh, of course.
Yes,
Exactly.
Yes,
You're just
that
days
event.
away.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
close.
Which is a huge thing at Independent Studio Services. So if you're interested in the prop world and you want to be in the prop world, come out and say hey and everything like that. So it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
that's-
event details are on the website. So.
Right.
And that's the best time to talk to prop masters because they'll have a few drinks.
Oh yeah. They get real chatty.
And they'll all be there. I think it's
Yeah.
last year. If last year's event proved anything, that it is definitely, I think, the biggest concentration of prop masters in the world at any one given time.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Is Scott Reeder coming back? Do we know?
Man, I hope so.
I hope he does. I
heard
hope
he
does.
was.
Oh,
He's
great.
Yeah, we have a few people flying in from out of town too, so it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it.
Yeah.
But there's also before we go, I want to mention the award show, which is hopefully going to be the new biggest cluster of prop masters that we have in the year, which is the McGuffin Awards. That's going to be September 10th, was it?
14th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
14th. I'm already
You
getting
got a
things
couple
wrong.
more weeks to get that one right.
No, yeah. So it's going to be September 14th. Tickets on that are on sale at McGuffinAwards.com. You could also on PMGAwards.com. Is that what it is?
Is this
Yeah.
going to come out before submissions close?
Yeah, submissions are closed. Sorry, guys. They closed yesterday. You missed your.
You missed it.
You missed it. But we did get in a lot of submissions. It's going to be a great award show. It's going to happen at the Belasco Theater. It's going to be fantastic. Buy your tickets. Come and support prop masters everywhere. Teresa and Lauren, thank you guys for joining us
Yeah.
today.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having
a lot
us
of
here.
fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and you're working right now, Lauren, right?
Yeah.
You're on a movie?
I'm on a movie right now, Tier 3.
On a tier 3.
Yeah.
It's better than a tier 1.
It
That's
is.
right.
It
I just
is.
did a non-union movie, and after working on it, because I was like so hesitant to work a non-union movie, I was like, I'm past this. And after finishing it, because I had a really good experience, it made me realize I'm not above doing any movies. Like I can't judge any of these anymore.
No.
And that's a movie that any of you getting in could have gotten. So you guys can apply for those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's your tier 3? Is it okay?
It's a lot of work.
It's
a lot of work.
There's
but,
one of those
you know,
coming.
Yeah,
it's,
it beats unemployment.
It beats
though.
unemployment.
Who knows? It could be scale by the time you're done.
Yeah.
But I truly, if they keep going at this rate, yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Teresa? Are you on anything?
I start tomorrow.
Hell yeah.
Doing a multicam pilot.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Done one other multicam pilot before, and they're kind of fun.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
And when you say tomorrow, you mean 3 weeks ago.
see. I mean, I'm 2 weeks into this job, and
Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's going great.
great. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That's right. You're manifesting. That's
Well,
nice.
if everybody in this room is on projects right now, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
So it means,
It's kicking up.
yeah. And I do want to preface with that that 40% of prop masters are still unemployed right now. So it's
Yes.
still really slow in Hollywood, although it is more busy than it was a little while ago. It is really difficult. So if you're trying to get into the industry as a prop master, especially now, don't get discouraged
Yeah.
because all the really high union, very experienced prop masters, we're scooping up your jobs right now. The ones that you'll be eligible
Right.
for.
Anything that's available.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but
don't give up.
no, they're when it's busy, and I'm hoping
And it will get busy again.
yeah,
Yeah.
this time next year
Always
we're going to
does.
be
It always does.
drowning.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
do that. All right.
Thank you, Remy.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Remy De Lamora,
Muy amable.
our technical director. Let's count us out. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Prop Talk, the official podcast of the Property Masters Guild, brought to you by Real Working and Retired Prop Master. If this is your first time listening, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment wherever you're hearing this or seeing it. We're on YouTube. So go over to YouTube if you want to watch these full episodes. You'll be able to see all of our beautiful faces in this room. If you have any questions for us or the Property Masters Guild, go ahead to propertymastersguild.org. It's just a fun website too. Go click around. There's some good stuff over there. You can send a message to us if you have a question for us here at the show. We'll read it out. Or if you have any ideas, like I said before, we're putting them on a list, so we'll get through them all. We're on Instagram and all their socials @_the PMG. I'm Mikey Trudel. Until next time.
Take it away, Paul Baker.